Alright, so here's a more up close and personal look at the old Sculpin Gallery. When Joe Alves came out to do some location scouting in December of 1973, this is the building that he saw that inspired him to design Quint's shack, which of course is on another side of the island, nowhere near here. This is actually, if I turn the camera around, right by the Chappaquiddick ferry. And it still looks very, very, very much the same as it did then. The shack that was built for the movie was just built for the movie. It had to be torn down very, very quickly after production or after filming was done. So it no longer exists. It's too bad they can't take this and just move it, move it to the other spot. But there you go. Old Sculpin Gallery in Edgartown. So there's a ton of Jaws filming location videos out there, right? It's a 50-year-old movie. A lot of people have come out here and do this. So I wanted to throw in some little deep cuts and little interesting tidbits. And this is one of them. Right now, we are on the waterfront in Edgartown. And right behind me, right here, is where they stored Bruce for some of the shots that were filmed in this area. Right here, there is a behind-the-scenes black and white photo. And I'm going to show you kind of the angle. It was right here. Bruce the shark was stored right here. And then this little office over here, if you can see it to the left, that was a little bit of a on-location office used by Spielberg. So of course he had his cabin that he stayed in, and he did a lot of writing in and rewrites. But when he needed to be kind of on location, he needed a place, a little office. And so they let him use that building right there. So let me turn the camera around and give you a look. So in the photo I saw, the angle was a little bit like this. Obviously there's a boat here, but this is exactly where Bruce was, right here. He would have been facing, out that way. I'll insert the photo so you can see it. And then again, that office, that building right there is what Spielberg used for an on-location office. So you can get a better look at this little spot. This is where Bruce was, pointing the other way though. So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to be sure to include that. So hope you enjoyed. So in another scene, Brody and Hooper go out on a boat at night. This is after all the local fishermen have gone out trying to find the shark. They decide to go out on Hooper's boat, his fancy boat, because we find out he's quite wealthy, and see what they can see. So when they're sailing on top of the water there, they're actually at a lake in Universal Studios Hollywood. But when he's underwater and he finds the tooth and he finds Ben Gardner's head, that's actually in the swimming pool of the movie's editor, Verna Fields. I had a blank there for a second. So I'm going to be able to show you the lake, but obviously I can't show you Verna Fields' swimming pool. This is Park Lake on the backlot of Universal Studios Hollywood. So when you see Hooper and Brody on the boat on the surface of the water at night looking for the shark, this is where those scenes were filmed. Once they're underwater, again, they're in Verna Fields' backyard swimming pool where that gruesome and shocking discovery of Ben Gardner's head is made. After that scene, after they found the tooth, the next thing you know, we're back at this location. So let me walk you through it. So after they find Ben Gardner's boat and then they discover Ben Gardner's head and the shark tooth, Hooper and Brody meet up with the mayor here. And there's a scene where they're actually kind of walking towards my camera and they walk in between two benches. These aren't the same benches and they're not even in the same place, but it just kind of gives you the general idea. You do kind of see that beautiful scenery in the background, and you see a little bit of a building over there. It looks to be a different building now, seems to be restrooms, but whatever was there was actually in the same spot, and I think they just built something newer and more modern. So that's the kind of thing you run into when you're going to filming locations from a 50-year-old movie. So quite a bit of activity takes place here. They're having a discussion in front of the big Amity sign, and that's when they see that the sign has been vandalized. Somebody has drawn on a little shark fin, and the mayor is not very happy about that. Hooper's trying to tell him that he has a major problem here, that all these sharks do is swim and eat and make baby sharks, or little sharks. But the mayor isn't having it. He wants the beaches open on the 4th of July, so he is not listening. And Hooper says, you're going to ignore this problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass. So then the mayor walks off and he goes to his car, which would have been sitting right about here. And you see the lighthouse in the background. But again, it would have been over there. So that's why things don't match up entirely. So Brody is trying to talk some sense into him. And the mayor just says, those beaches will be open on the 4th of July. And the mayor gets in his car and drives away, leaving Brody here to wonder what the heck is going on. So after Brody finishes talking to the mayor, he turns around and he discovers Matt Hooper sitting on a rock. And there's a whole story that goes along with that rock. The rock that Matt Hooper sat on is no longer in the original place. So I'm going to fill you in on that in just a minute. So I've absolutely been enjoying my time out here at the Akina Cliffs, just spending a little time just kind of sitting and soaking it all in, soaking in, the scenes from a movie that made motion picture history where they were filmed. The scene of Brody driving down the street, the classic Amity billboard. I mean, that's imprinted in our minds. And of course, the scene with the sheriff having the meeting with Brody and with Hooper. And by the way, I forgot to mention earlier that billboard that we all know, the girl on the float, and then the shark got drawn on it. The model for the girl on that billboard was actually Brian De Palma's girlfriend at the time. And so that's what that figure was modeled after. Anyway, I said we would get back to the rock, and so now it is time to do that. And to assist me, I have my good friend here, Billy Dickey from Billy's Spot Shots. This rock has been, what happened to Hooper's Rock? It's been a debate for about 15 years, right?
At least 10.
Yeah, and so many people thought it was gone because when you come here, where you expect the rock to be, it's not. Upon further examination, Billy has determined that, in fact, Hooper's Rock is here. It's just not in the same place. So, Billy knows rocks better than I do. After all, I'm the girly girl. So I'm going to let him walk you through it and show you what we have concluded.
We've been here for a while. I have looked at these. I was coming to Martha's Vineyard, and I really wanted to get to the bottom of this. Because it was a big thing for me for some reason. I just wanted to get that shot. I wanted to sit on the rock. As I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other Jaws fans want to do the same thing when they come to Martha's Vineyard. As you can see, there's a whole line of rocks here kind of lining this park area. So at the time, basically, the Hooper Rock was on the end. So I was going to come take a really, really thorough, close look at this rock, and I've studied every square inch of it. And my assessment is this is the rock, it's just upside down. So basically, I don't know if you kind of want to walk around this side, you can sort of see over here how it's smooth. This is really smooth where this is rough and jagged. So this portion, in my assessment, was on the bottom at the time, because in the shot, the Hooper shot, you can see how smooth the rock is. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it's definitely smooth, feels smooth. There's some other determining factors. This ring here, this brownish rust colored ring. There's also a brownish rust colored ring that goes around the bottom, which is probably what you're seeing in the Hooper shot. And then this kind of cut out section, yeah, that you can see that in the shot too. So if you flipped this rock over, if you come back on this side, you can see this orange band that goes around the top. And that's what you're seeing in the Hooper shot.
Wow.
To further illustrate what Billy is explaining, here's a photo showing the Hooper Rock in 2005 in its original place, as Billy has described. It's the one marked with the yellow arrow. Here is another photo Billy found when he was conducting his research. This is a more recent photo taken in 2024. In this shot, you can see that the rock is where it currently is, wedged between the other rocks, moved from its original location. The rocks numbered 1, 2, and 3, those are unmoved. They are still in their original location. It's only the Hooper rock that was moved. Now, in the interest of time and to avoid redundancy, I'm going to recommend that you go to Billy's channel, Billy's Spot Shots, where he has uploaded his own video, delving into the whole story and explaining all of the research that he has conducted and the conclusions he has come to. Be sure to check it out. But one thing I want to say before wrapping this segment up, I did want to add, while we now have confirmed that the Hooper rock is there and that it has been moved, the one thing that still remains a mystery is why. Why would someone move that rock? Could it have been to get construction equipment in the area when they moved the lighthouse? Could it have been to get construction equipment in to bring in supplies when they were building the new restroom building? Or to haul away pieces of the old building? Or to do some underground piping for the plumbing? Or would it have something to do with the replacement of the benches? They probably had to pour some new concrete. That is the one thing we do not know. So while we can confirm that the Hooper rock is still there, which is really the best news and the main takeaway, the one thing we cannot tell you is why. That remains a mystery.
Us actually coming up here and examining the hell out of this thing, we can confirm this is it. So we're going to make a lot of diehard Jaws fans really, really happy to know that it's here. Now, you can't match the shot because it's not in the right place. It's not on the rock's not going to look exactly the same. The benches aren't even the same, and they're not even in the same spot. So you can't match it exactly. But if you want to sit on the rock that Richard Dreyfuss sat on, this is it. Mary, I think you should sit on this rock. We'll give a little assessment of the difference in look between sitting on the real Hooper rock and sitting on the Wish version of the Hooper rock. Okay, Mary, so why don't you give us a demonstration of what it looks like sitting on Wish Hooper rock.
All right.
So as you can see, Mary's got the pose, she's on the rock. This is basically more or less the shot that most people want, and also the shot that most people get when they come here thinking I found it, I found the Hooper rock. You did not. Okay, now let's see what it looks like on Hooper's rock.
Okay. Hooper's rock. I'm so excited to have found it.
You know what this is? You know what? We got the creme de la creme right here.
Absolutely. My derriere is about to go where Richard Dreyfuss was, sort of. It's a little difficult to get the position because there's this other rock in the way, so
Yes, very inconvenient.
I'm going to do my best here.
Okay. So, as you can see, it just doesn't look the same. You got other rocks in the shot that you can't avoid because it's not on the end where it belongs.
So thank you, Billy, for that excellent demonstration. I hope you enjoyed this, a little demonstration and a little additional information about the mystery of the Hooper rock. So now I am standing in front of the Harbor View Hotel, right on the waterfront. Well, not on the waterfront, but with a great view of the harbor. And there was a couple things that happened here, so I'm going to turn the camera on and give you a look at this pool where there was a very entertaining evening one night during the production of Jaws, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So this right here is the Harbor View Hotel in Edgartown, Martha's Vineyard, and this is where Verna Fields stayed, and this is where she did all of the editing of Jaws. It was all done inside her hotel room here at the Harbor View. I'm sure it's undergone some renovation since then. It looks to be an absolutely exquisite place to stay, and it's called the Harbor View because, well, guess what? It overlooks the harbor, and there's the Edgartown Lighthouse. In addition, during the grueling production process, the crew met here at the Harborview Hotel for a dinner. And at that dinner, a food fight broke out. You can just see Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider and everybody, major food fight breaking out, probably a way to release all the stress that they had been under. And that food fight spilled out into this pool, where many of them jumped into the pool to clean themselves off. So it's a gorgeous hotel here. Now, how that food fight started, who threw the first meatball or the first handful of mashed potatoes, no one can exactly recall. But the bartender at the time, George Gamble, was quoted as saying that the principals were Spielberg, Roy Scheider, and Richard Dreyfuss. He was quoted as saying the three managed to make a real mess. It was a disgusting sight seeing them covered in ravioli, cake, and diced fruit. So we did go inside and ask if they happened to know what room Verna stayed in when she was doing the editing of Jaws, and unfortunately it's just been too long and they don't have a record of that. So we thought that would be really cool to know and be able to tack onto this little deep cut about Jaws. But that is it, the Harborview Hotel. Just imagine right here is where everything in Jaws, every scene, all of the editing was done right inside this hotel. So I just wanted to include that because I thought that was a very interesting fact. Well, we just got off the ferry in Vineyard Haven on Martha's Vineyard, and I'll turn the camera around and show you because this is actually a filming location from Jaws. This is where, on the 4th of July weekend, when all the people were coming to Amity, this is where they arrived. The same ferry that we just came in on right now. So I'll turn the camera around and give you a look. So it starts in the harbor and we see the boat arriving in here. And then it comes up to this entrance right here, because there's a couple different entrances here, but it's the one on the left. And we see the boat pull up, and of course the doors open and the people start to spill out and the vehicles start coming out. And then we see the crowd of people walking this way. And I'll have to go move over a little bit to show you, but in the background you could see a bicycle shop. You know, because it is an island, and a lot of people will rent bicycles and just bicycle around. But right back there, behind that white bus, you could see a sign that says bike rentals. That's not where the sign was in the movie, though. The sign was actually on the blue building right next to it. You can kind of see the windows match the original shot, and you see that house in the background with the two windows and a couple windows down below. If you look real close, will line up with the shot from the movie. So this is it. This is the Vineyard Haven ferry terminal on Martha's Vineyard, where the crowd arrived to Amity on that memorable 4th of July weekend. Looks very much like it did in the movie. Not too much has changed, really. There's the Steamship Authority building where you can buy your tickets. This is where the cars line up to get on. And then here's where the ferries come out. All right, this is just a cute little mention I wanted to show. We are in Vineyard Haven at the Black Dog compound. There's a Black Dog restaurant, Black Dog Tavern, Black Dog General Store, which those of you that were around during the Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton scandal, that's where he purchased his gifts from Monica, by the way. And there's also a Black Dog Bakery. But we want to show you something. This was, when they were filming Jaws, they needed some additional help moving all the equipment around. So they hired a local tugboat to help them with that, to move things all around the ocean. And I'm going to show you something that remains from that tugboat right here on the Black Dog compound. So here it is. It's kind of not much, but yet it's kind of it's really something. This is the nameplate from the Whitefoot tugboat in Vineyard Haven that was hired to help the Jaws production move equipment around the ocean. The equipment that they had, it just wasn't enough, or it wasn't big enough. The little tugboats weren't big enough to get the job done. So they had to bring in the help of a huge local tugboat. And this was called the Whitefoot, and this is the sign that remains from that tugboat. I'm sure that tugboat is no longer in existence. It's been a long time. But this was preserved for history. So that's it. Just a nice little honorable mention I wanted to point out on this Jaws filming location video. You know, it almost makes you wonder. The fact that they had to hire a bigger tugboat, it makes you wonder, is that where Roy Scheider got the idea to improvise that line? We're gonna need a bigger boat? Never know. All right, on to the next spot. All right, so this is just one of those little fun facts I wanted to include. I'm now over in Oak Bluff, and I am standing in front of the Island Theater. This is where the Jaws premiere on Martha's Vineyard was held, right here. So I thought it would be a pretty cool thing to include, and I'll turn around and let you get a better look at it. So this is it, the Island Theater. It is on the busy Circuit Avenue in Oak Bluff. And this is where that premiere was held. They actually hung a sign over here that said Amity. And there's a photo online of all the people standing around, all the crowds, all the locals that were anxious to see it. The premiere was a benefit for the Martha's Vineyard Hospital as well. All right, this next location is somewhat of some people are aware of it and some people are not. It was not known for many, many years, and then it came out with one of the anniversary releases. There was a deleted scene in Jaws where Quint walked across from the harbor back here. Sorry, it's starting to rain, so I have an umbrella. And he walks across the street, and he walks into that door, first door to the left of that big door on the very right of frame. That's where he walks into. And that is a music store. And he goes in there to purchase piano wire because that's what he plans to use to catch the shark. So in that scene, you do see him just kind of walking down this sidewalk over here, and he walks into that door. You see that building in the background, and this is pretty much the shot. And then there is an inside scene, which according to some information we have, was filmed inside that space, but the owners of that space say they are not aware of that, and it certainly does not look like any music store today. In fact, they said there never was a music store here, so if that space was used, it was not a music store at the time. It was just dressed to look like it. I wanted to spin by this building behind me. I'm going to show it to you, don't worry. This is actually where the crew stayed. About 150 crew members stayed here during the production of Jaws, and it actually saved the hotel from bankruptcy. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. So I'll turn the camera around and give you a little look. So this is it right here. It is called, or it was called, the Kelly House. It's now called the Faraway. But when the crew called the owner of the hotel asking for rooms, they demanded a $25,000 deposit. Little did he know that that was small change, and this reservation was going to change his life. They were really struggling. Like I said, the hotel was on the verge of bankruptcy. But the owner estimates that by the time the filming of Jaws was done, he did own some other businesses in Edgartown, a restaurant, seafood shanty, a marina that supplied some of the boating equipment. I think he had another hotel as well. He estimated that by the time filming was done, he had earned $1 million. So this is where ultimately 150 crew members ended up staying, right here at this building. It's right off of Water Street in downtown Edgartown. The waterfront is just down that way. And let's see, what else? So Water Street is not very far. If you just go up this road a little bit to the left, you're going to be at the intersection of Main and Water, which is where, you know, Sheriff Brody did his big walk, and where the 4th of July celebration banner was. So you can see just how close everything was to each location. This was a convenient place to house them because it was close to where all the shooting was being done. So So that is it. The old Kelly House Inn where the crew stayed while our favorite film Jaws was being filmed. Alright, so right before you I have another one of those deep cuts. Right now we are looking at a baseball field in the Robinson Road Recreation Area. It is called the Manny J. Nunes, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, Memorial Field. Why am I showing you a baseball field? Well, we all know that the production of Jaws was pretty stressful, pretty strenuous, and tensions were high at times. So there were several times where the cast members and crew members would come here to blow off steam by playing some softball on this particular high school baseball diamond. And Roy Scheider, always being the athlete, he would usually play topless. So there are some photos I'm going to go ahead and insert here. You can see Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider on this very field right in front of you. So there you have it. One more deep cut. I'm not getting out of the car because it's starting to rain, but I did want to show you the field so you can imagine them running around those bases. In one of the photographs, you can see a house in the background. The trees have grown quite a bit, so you can't see too much, but that might be the house back there. I can't quite tell, but this is definitely that field. Play ball! All right, so the final scene of Jaws that is actually filmed on land brings us to Menemsha in the Chillimark area, of course, on Martha's Vineyard. And that is going to be the location of Quint's shack. So as I've mentioned, they built a shack that was, modeled after the Sculpin Gallery in Edgartown. And they had to have it torn down within a couple weeks after filming was done. So it's gone. However, the space on which it was built they haven't built anything else on it. This is the spot where Quint's shack was. And when I turn the camera around, you'll be able to kind of see the water ahead of it. You'll see the shape of it, so you can kind of see, you can kind of tell that this is where it was. So let me turn the camera around and show you. So this is it. This seems to be a garden now. There's a fence around this piece of land, as you can see. There's a restaurant on the left, and this appears to be a home on the right, so I'm going to try not to get that in the shot. But if I raise the camera high, you can kind of get a feel for it. We'll zoom in a little bit. There is the bay. So the orca, when they went out of Quint's shack, they set sail headed that way, away from my camera. And this whole area right now, when we got here, I would say it looks just like the movie. You feel like you just walked onto the set of Jaws with all these other boats. This doesn't seem to be too much changed, except for this, but it's not changed. It never was there to begin with. It was just built for the movie. Well, we talked to a nice resident down there who gave us the information on how to get up to where you get the view of the harbor. So we walked up here and wait till you see what's at the end. So this right here is it. This is the final, on land scene from the movie. And you can see back there between those two buildings, that grassy or gardeny patch, that's where Quint's shack was. You don't actually see the shack when they're pulling out. The scene starts about right there. And then, we just watch the orca move through the bay just like that. This has not changed. It feels like it hasn't changed one bit. However, that is not the end of this filming location video. The movie went on the ocean, and so did I. Stay tuned for more. I didn't feel like any video showing you the locations of Jaws would be complete without getting on a boat and going into the water. So right now we are on a boat, the Naughty Girl Excursions. If you ever come to Martha's Vineyard, look them up. And we are going out to Katama Bay, where Quint was eaten by the shark, where Hooper's cage was pulled up from the water, where the man in that the boat, when the boys were in the little pond area with their little sailboat, the man that got eaten by a shark, one of the most terrifying scenes in the film. It was actually filmed out here, not where the rest of that scene was filmed by the Jaws Bridge. They did a pickup shot since they had the equipment over here for all of these other major shots. Quint being eaten, Hooper's cage coming up, the man getting eaten by the shark, and the pièce de résistance, the blowing up of the shark. So that is where we are headed right now. So excited! A 28-year-old Steven Spielberg was very ambitious. He was determined to film Jaws on the open water, not in a tank in a studio. And it was the first time it had been done. And it was only his second movie, so it was pretty, he was going for the gold, and of course it worked. So yeah, no other movie like this had ever been filmed on the open water. A lot of it was filmed out in the open ocean, further north on the island. But it was such rough waters, and this went on for a good month of filming. The crew was exhausted. It was the worst filming conditions. I think Steven Spielberg has nightmares about the production of Jaws to this day. So later on in the production, they went inside the Katama Bay because the waters are a little bit calmer. The weather was probably a little more temperate. They were actually filming about this time of year. We are here right now. It is early June. So they were filming it 50 years ago right now. So this would have been the weather conditions that they had. So we're getting close. There's actually Chappaquiddick Island over there on the left. Over on the right is Martha's Vineyard, Edgartown, and we are sailing through the Katama Bay. We have arrived. Our wonderful captain, and Angela Fisher, has taken us to the spot where all of those scenes that I mentioned earlier were filmed. We know for a fact, even though houses have changed a little bit, people in her family and other captains of boats and everything out in Martha's Vineyard, they watched the scenes be filmed. So, they know it's a heritage that's gone on. And up until about maybe 7-10 years ago, they were still getting little pieces of the shark out of the water. So this is the spot. Let me turn around and show you. So there's some behind the scenes photos, and you see when Brody is getting ready to shoot the shark and his famous line, "Smile, you son of a bitch." There's other behind the scenes photos of that man in the boat that got eaten by the shark. Of course, Quint being eaten by the shark and Hooper's cage coming up. So there were some behind the scenes photos of some of those scenes, and you pretty much see this tree line in the background. Most importantly, you see these two houses. The one on the right, you see a house with two chimneys, and the one on the left, which seems to be exactly the same. The house on the right appears to have undergone a few renovations since then. But what really gives it away, when you look at those behind the scenes photos closely, you can kind of see this stone wall. So between what the house looks like in the behind the scenes photos, between the locals that witnessed the movie being filmed here, the people that were still picking up pieces of shark afterwards, we are very, very confident that we are standing in the exact spot where all of those scenes were filmed from Jaws here on Martha's Vineyard. So when we first saw the man in the red boat, yes, he was in the little pond over by Jaws Bridge that I showed you earlier. However, when it came to filming the actual attack, that was done right here in Katama Bay. They already had all the equipment here, they had the shark, they had the hydraulics, so it just made sense, since they were already all set up, to film the attack here. And you can see how amazing, I mean, they were so close to land, and yet they just made it look like they were out at sea. So it was an amazing piece of motion picture artwork. Lots of pine trees, and of course everything is grown. When you see the behind the scenes photos, the trees are not taller than the house, but now they are. So this is the spot. We are so excited to be here. This is where Bruce took his last breath, right here in these waters. Smile, you son of a bitch!
I am sentimental to a fault. So when I saw this bouquet of flowers on the boat, I knew I had to take one and throw it in the water in memory of Quint, because this is where he died. And also Bruce. Although that shark, he had it coming. So rest in peace, Quint. Rest in peace, Bruce. And thank you to Steven Spielberg and the amazing cast and crew that made this revolutionary film that changed our lives forever.
Billy, what does it feel like to be here? Tell me what it feels like.
I don't really know how to describe it. I'll tell you this much. 10-year-old me wouldn't be caught dead over here.
10-year-old you would have been afraid?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think I was the first captain I contacted about coming out here wanted to bring us out on like an inflatable boat, and I was a little scared. I was a little scared.
That would have been, I mean, I would have done it, you know, anything for the shot, I would have done it.
There you go.
But I would have been terrified.
Yeah, it just, when you see a movie like that at such a young age, I mean, it makes such an impression on you. To this day, I'm pretty hesitant to go into the ocean. I'll go in maybe up to my knees or so, but then
I won't swim in the ocean.
I heard someone say most shark attacks happen pretty close to shore, so even going in just a little bit. So that's what I have Jaws. I have Jaws to thank for that, and Spielberg. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that lifelong fear. 41 years old, and I'm still scared of the ocean.
Yep. But anyway, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience to be right here where all of that happened for me.
This is awesome.
It's jawsome, Billy.
Jawsome. Yeah, that's what everybody says around here. Jawsome.
So, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing it. We are having a ball being here and bringing it to you. Well, there is one more little scene we're going to try to get. It's actually at the very, very end of the movie. After Bruce is blown up, Cooper resurfaces, and him and Brody start paddling their way to shore. And you see them paddling in the distance, and then you see this beautiful beach that they eventually reach. And you see a shot of that as the credits roll.
You ever heard of Vineyard Haven?
We're trying to get to that beach and see if we can see what that looks like today. So wish us luck. Well, we made it, a little wind blown, but we made it to the beach that we see at the very, very end of Jaws as the credits roll after Cooper and Brody swim ashore using the yellow barrels to support them. It happened right here, so I'm going to turn the camera around and give you a look. We are on the Cape Pogue Refuge with the Cape Pogue Lighthouse behind us. So I'm going to turn the camera around and give you a good look. But we made it. Oh my gosh, we're so excited. Now, like everything else, time has changed a few things, but this is basically the shot that you see at the end. You see Cooper and Brody, they're out there swimming in on their barrels, and they make it to shore right about down there. And there is the Cape Pogue Lighthouse in the background. There has been some erosion, so things look a little bit different. It's been 50 years, 49 years since they filmed it as we're recording this, but this is it. Had to take a boat to get here. Wasn't easy, but we made it. This is the final scene, the final, as the credits roll, the final scene in the movie Jaws. Absolutely incredible to be here. Visiting the filming locations from Jaws has been a dream of mine for decades. And getting to this beach, I didn't think it was going to be possible. So my dreams have come true. I hope you enjoyed seeing this, and I hope you have enjoyed the video. I think we're just going to go take a walk off into the sunset now. I gotta thank this guy for joining me. Billy Dickey, my good friend. It is filming locations and our passion for movies like Jaws that formed this friendship. So I couldn't imagine doing it without someone that was on the same level of Jaws fanaticism as me. So I have to give a big thank you to this guy. We both got to have our dreams come true, and as they say, it's teamwork that makes the dream work. So thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
I wish we didn't have to leave.
It was fun.
Alright everyone, that's going to just about do it. We're back at the Vineyard Haven Steamship Authority facility. We're going to get back on the ferry to go back to the mainland. And we've had 4 amazing days of weather, but today decided to rain. So perfect day since we are getting off the island. So I just want to leave you with this. Jaws had 3 mechanical sharks named Bruce, named after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. And it's well documented that those sharks, they were problematic. They were not maybe designed to be used on the ocean. So because of that, what they did was they filmed all the scenes on land first. And we didn't even see the shark until 55 minutes into the film. I just think that's a really ironic twist of fate, because that's what made Jaws so spectacular. That's what added to the suspense. We didn't see the shark, we just had the hint of the shark, and that's what made it so terrifying. They even had run out of on-land scenes and were ready to go back on the ocean, but the shark was still not working. So how did they account for that? That's when they came up with the idea of the yellow barrels. Even though the shark wasn't working, they could use those yellow barrels, and that would let the audience know where the shark was. So it was absolutely brilliant, ingenious, just the most terrifying movie at the time, the biggest blockbuster, and I absolutely loved it. Oh, and by the way, because of that, every little clip that they got of those mechanical sharks, every little bit of that film was used. Nothing was scrapped because there was nothing to spare. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I have had the time of my life realizing this bucket list wish. I do feel like I just walked onto Amity Island and onto the set of Jaws, having been to not just the filming locations, but where the crew stayed and where they blew off some steam and all of these things, just walking in their trail. I have had a blast, and I hope that you have enjoyed this video. So thank you for watching, and be well.